There's insanity in the control room.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Hold on. Is the sound okay? I appear to be having some sound issues already. Do I got a case of the Mondays going on? I have no idea what the fuck is going on here. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Such as it is. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if this doesn't sound like complete and utter ass. The music was weird, but the mic is good. The audio's low, quite low. Yeah, I spent the weekend trying to figure out how to do some like audio testing. And it was all fine up until earlier. Intro music was off. Oh boy. Okay. I am blue. Yes, very blue. Well, at least we got the visuals right. But yeah, I'm still working on some stuff. If you could tell, trying to make everything work. But you know what? We're gonna do it. Hopefully, y'all can hear the videos. Yeah. Let's see what happens today. Okay. Trust me, if I had more time, I would have done more testing, but I did not have more time, unfortunately. So we're gonna make do with what we have. So it is what it is. All right. Anyway, let's talk about what we're gonna do today. We've got some stories. We've got Donald Trump versus Republican donors. And Mitch McConnell and pretty much everybody. We got My Pillow guy going crazy again. We get Ted Nugent also going crazy. We also are going to talk about Chauvin, Derek Chauvin's very, very bad trial. It's not going very well for him. It's going very poorly. So yeah, not good for him. But good for us, I guess. And then Minneapolis police officers, once again, getting themselves in trouble. So, all that, with that, okay, let's do it. Oh, hey. Nope, that's wrong. It's a Monday. True. All right. Former President Donald Trump went on a rampage during a rant behind closed doors at a Republican donor retreat at Mar-a-Lago. So basically, he just got a bunch of people together so he could rant in his living room or something. Because that's something totally, normal people totally do, right? All right. So come on. Especially ex-presidents. What ex-presidents will ever do that? All right. Anyway, so now, according to reports from the New York Times and the Washington Post's Josh Dawsey, the former president held absolutely nothing back in a profane screed, going after many, including some top Republicans. Both Dawsey and the Times reported that Trump had some fun words for Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, calling him a, quote, dumb son of a bitch. Dumb son of a bitch. As well as calling him a stone cold loser. Interesting. A loser calling someone else a loser. I'm not taking McConnell's side in this point. I'm just saying that it is a little hypocritical. But of course, it's not just that. Even though I love Republican on Republican crime in the morning. It makes me happy. But there's more. He's also going to go after Dr. Anthony Fauci, with also reporting that Trump taunted the infectious disease expert, quote, relentlessly. Have you ever seen anybody so full of crap? Trump reportedly said of Fauci. Funny because, speaking of crap.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Big, massive dumps right there. Hey, you know what? I have seen somebody full of crap. He was our president for 4 years. 4 long years that we will never, ever get back. That are completely lost to us now. Sad. Now, within these 4 years, by the way, 500,000 Americans died of COVID. Who was right about COVID? Well, more so correct than President Trump, who, by the way, suggested that people inject disinfectant. Or, is that guy right? Or was the person who was an actual medical professional who did their best to try to understand a virus that we hadn't seen before? I'm not saying Fauci had 100% right. Nobody gets it 100% right. I can guarantee that Fauci did a better job than Donald Trump. Just saying. I mean, at least if you follow the data. But Donald Trump, he was not done. The former president also went after Mike Pence. Our friend.
Mike Pounds.
Yes. Now, he blasted the election results as bullshit and once again claimed the vote was rigged. Trump also expressed disappointment in Pence for certifying the tally. Quote, I wish that Mike Pence had the courage to send it back to the legislatures. I like him so much. I was so disappointed. Very, very disappointed. Tremendously disappointed. So here's the thing. He's acting like if Mike Pence actually had the ability to do something. He couldn't. Like, he doesn't actually have the authority to overturn the results of the election as much as he probably wanted to in order for him to stay in power. The fact that this has literally been known for months, and not only that, but Donald Trump was literally president of the United States. It's not like he didn't have the resources to figure out what he can or what he can and can't do, much less what the vice president can and cannot do, and what Congress actually does, and how everything actually works, how our system of government. He didn't take any time to learn any of that. None at all. And this guy has the temerity to call somebody who was basically a diabolical genius in Mitch McConnell dumb. Yeah, okay, dude. Yeah, okay. Right. Dipshit. He's a dipshit and doesn't read. And of course we know that. Because he's a one-pager kind of guy, and probably not even a one-paragraph kind of guy. Can barely keep his attention for longer than a tweet. Ridiculous. And so it's amazing how, like, there's a couple of possibilities. Either somebody told him and he didn't care, he chucked it in the wastebasket of his brain, where most, if any, factual information goes. Old pieces of factual information go right into the trash in his brain. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Either that or nobody had the balls to actually tell him that no, Mike Pence actually he can't actually do that by himself. I don't know. Now he also went after Senator Ben Sassy Ben Sassy, Mitt Romney, of course, for not being sufficiently loyal. Also, he decided to get out his greatest hits, going after Obama as well, and even Oprah. Yes, Oprah. So this is basically a grievance list. It's basically like every day for Donald Trump now is Festivus. He's got a lot of problems with you people, and now you're going to hear about it every single day. And about the only nice thing that he said was ironically about the Capitol rioters. you know, not the people who actually got in trouble for the riot. Now he's like, oh no, not those people, but everybody who showed up to my rally, which then a large majority of them went to go and ransack the Capitol. But whatever. Now this was all happening at a Republican fundraiser, again at Mar-a-Lago at his house. And so, interestingly enough, with everybody that showed up, this didn't go over well. No. In fact, Political Playbook reported that one donor who attended said this of the speech, quote, "It was horrible. It was long and negative. It was dour. He didn't talk about the positive things his administration has done." Were there any positive things? I mean, really? Anything positive? Because I don't recall anything positive. At least look, for regular people, sure. For the donors, I guess they got tons of tax cuts, so I guess they're pretty happy about that. Politico also reported that a few donors were spotted out dining elsewhere while the president was quote unquote droning on. Many major donors have been fed up with Trump's antics since January 6th, they report. While Trump was speaking, we spotted at least two, both of whom received prominent appointments during his administration, out dining with friends at a local restaurant in Palm Beach, rather than sitting through the former president's dinner at Mar-a-Lago, Playbook reports. That's because the donors are essentially over. They never really liked him in the first place. They just wanted somebody. Again, this is what Republicans looked for. The donor class looks for somebody smart enough to sign a pen, to sign his name on a pen, or with a pen. That's really it. It's somebody who can sign their name, and Donald Trump was at least kind of, sort of able to do that. Just to whatever piece of legislation they put in front of him, that's what they wanted him to do. And of course, you can recall he's pissed off them, the donors, quite a bit for doing things that didn't help them, but also ultimately did help them a lot by giving them tax cuts and deregulation. But otherwise, they still didn't like him. They didn't like him, which is interesting. I never liked him in the first place. But the Republican Party's in kind of a weird place. It always has been. A good chunk of their supporters, for at least the last 30, 40 years, have been insane conspiracy theorists that peddle in racism, anti-Semitism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, and they vote because of those issues, right? They're single issue voters, okay? And the donors hold the real power in the party. They always have. Now, the donors don't like the voters, and the voters don't like the donors. But because Republicans are fighting the culture wars, which up until recently didn't really involve the donors as much, the both were able to coexist in the party in some form or the other, right? And of course, a lot of those donors also play both sides. They'll donate to Democrats, donate to Republicans, and still, end up getting giant tax cuts or some sort of deregulation, at least in the case of the banks, from both. Okay? And even the Tea Party, by the way, you remember the Tea Party movement? They were bought easily, turning anger from bank bailouts into hating Obamacare for some reason, because Obamacare raised taxes on rich people. So there was always this struggle between what's known as the populist right, which is deeply reactionary to social change, but also happens to be anti-big donors and big corporations. But with Donald Trump, this entire thing got a little bit worse. The rhetoric from the top ended up getting so toxic that the business Republicans and the donor class and the corporations, which got all sorts of goodies from Republicans, were really worried about being tied to Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form, especially after the crazies stormed the Capitol. So they're over him, essentially. And they want the next guy, because there will be a next guy, to be quieter so they can go back to supporting the Republicans, fucking over workers, and making more and more money. But Trump is never going to be done. He's never going to let this go. He's going to continue to complain. Every day he wakes up a gigantic loser and looks for a new person, new situation, or the same people to blame for it. This is his life now. And really, it's just sad. It's very sad. All right. The video is supposed to be purple. I've got purple lights. And I'm aware of the audio issues. That's what we get from doing a live show. Moving on. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell is coming for Fox News, which is ironic considering that he is one of the biggest advertisers on Fox News. Nonetheless, the CEO, who has floated conspiracy theories about the election, had this conversation with the pardoned criminal grifter Steve Bannon. Take a look.
Why are the Murdochs, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're one of the biggest advertisers over there. I don't remember seeing you on Fox recently. Why are the Murdochs afraid of Dominion? Is there something about their cases, something about the facts? I mean, the Murdochs are tough. They don't care. They do it. So why is Mike Lindell not on Fox? And why do they seem to say, hey, when Dominion says something, we're just going to shut up about it and talk about Biden's tax bill?
Well, I'm going to have those answers too, because I've hired private investigators and I've spent a lot of money on them to investigate everything. Why are the bots and trolls? Who's behind them? Why is Facebook involved? Wikipedia involved? And then the big question: why isn't Fox having people on? Why isn't Fox on there talking about Dominion and Smartmatic and the election fraud? Why don't you get on there and talk about things you don't like about the vaccine?
All right, so interesting. Why isn't Fox News, who's being sued, airing my conspiracy theory, to which I am also being sued for? It's a good question. Good question. It might be because they're getting sued. And that's really the short answer here. They don't want to get sued more, all right? And the longer answer really is because at this moment, it doesn't really benefit Fox News to air these conspiracies anymore. They would rather talk about Hunter Biden, Dr. Seuss, cancel culture, or Biden's dog Major biting somebody and pooping on the floor. I mean that's about it. It doesn't do them any more good, okay? In fact, it might actually get them deeper into trouble with the lawsuit because it's obvious defamation. But Steve Bannon should be in prison, okay? Let's just say that. Steve Bannon is a grifter, as I said before, pardoned by Donald Trump for stealing a bunch of his supporters' money. It's not a surprise to see them hanging out together. Nonetheless, he's going to ask this question of Lindell. Take a look.
And what if their response is, "Hey, Mike, we saw the films, we've seen it, and we just don't think you got the evidence"? What if that's have you talked? Have you guys reached out to those guys and said, "Hey, why don't you have anybody on it?" Their response may be, "Hey, I hear you, I love you, I love the ads, but I'm just not seeing as far as the evidence goes." Could that possibly be be a response?
100% no.
100% no. He said that with absolute conviction. Absolutely not. All right, well, look, Lindell's movies are garbage, okay? They don't have any facts in them. It's basically a lot of nonsense, rehashing of the same conspiracies, the same talking points that we've heard before, and a declaration that Donald Trump, of course, will be president again by August or something. It was supposed to be back in January, but then it was like, oh no, it didn't happen. Or was that the conspiracy from QAnon? I don't know. It's hard to keep track of your conspiracies at this point. I'm gonna need like a bingo card, really, or some sort of conspiracy tracker, because they're really getting out of control here. Okay, there's a lot of them, but again, this conspiracy comes back to Dominion voting machines, which is why he's being sued. buy Dominion for $1.3 billion. The machines that he says that claims that they're flipping votes and that Donald Trump actually won. But now, of course, that's not true. That didn't actually happen. And if they had real evidence, actual evidence, they would have actually shown that during the different court cases that the Trump administration was involved in involving the Dominion machines, but that did not actually happen. And the Trump administration would have actually found it, not some third-rate pillow salesman who thinks he's now an investigator. Freaking hilarious, okay? And by the way, he's sending investigators. He's sending the investigators, guys. What does that sound like? Oh, yeah, it sounds like when Donald Trump sent investigators to Hawaii to find the birth certificate. And then to prove that Obama wasn't born in the United States. He's a Kenyan Muslim socialist. It's all bullshit. It's all 100% bullshit. And the fact that Steve Bannon is allowing this guy to continue to spread nonsense on his platform is really asking for Steve Bannon to get involved in this lawsuit as well. I can't wait to see that happen. And if anyone deserves, like, okay, Steve Bannon, it would have been nice to see him rot in prison. I'm not ashamed of saying that. All right. But you know what? I'll take Steve Bannon getting, bankrupted. So there you go. That would work for me. All right. Moving on. We got Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent, well known for some of his classic music. I know him better, actually, as a person who crapped his pants for a month straight to go to Vietnam. Had some questions related to COVID lockdowns. In fact, let's take a look.
Dirty, bastard, lying, scam, smoke and mirrors, COVID-19 freaks. I guess I would ask you, because I'm addicted to truth, logic, and common sense, and my common sense meter would demand the answer to, why weren't we shut down for COVID 1 through 18? There was a COVID 1 and there was a COVID 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. COVID 1 through 18 didn't shut anything down, but whoa, COVID-19, even though it's 99.8% survivable, why didn't we shut down for the AIDS epidemic or the flu or the Spanish flu or the bird flu or the West Nile flu or influenza every year? They claim 500,000 people have died from COVID-19. Bullshit.
You're kidding, right? I mean, that's hilarious, right? You got us, Ted. Good one. Oh, hey, you're not kidding, right? Oh no. Oh, yeah. So there's a lot in there. Bullshit on the 500,000 Americans who died from COVID-19. No, it's actually not made up. In fact, as of this video right now, and the count continues to climb, even under Biden, yes. The Center for Disease Control listed more than 562,000 associated deaths in the U.S. That's out of 31 million cases that have been documented in this country so far. So if you do the math on that, that also disproves this other point, because I know math is hard, numbers are hard. 99.8% survivable. That's what he says. Again, the math does not check out. According to the numbers, there's actually a 1.81% fatality rate in the United States as of the current numbers. So now, that might not sound like a lot. But understand, that's actually... We have a population of about 330 million people, right? About 31 million people have been infected that we know of. by COVID-19. And in some cases, the death count's actually been undercounted. And so if you were to have 100 million people that contracted COVID-19, well, that would almost immediately double or triple the deaths that we have. So instead of 500,000, we'd have somewhere around roughly 1.5 million. Again, just keeping with the 1.81%. So, not good. And so if you go by the numbers reported by the Johns Hopkins COVID tracker, if more people were infected, as will be, the death rate will continue to rise. And that's why we have the lockdowns. That's why we have the mask mandates and the push for vaccinations. We're trying to avoid those high numbers of deaths, okay? Now, you also heard that he questioned the shutdowns for the other pandemics. Well, it turns out there was a shutdown related to at least the Spanish flu of 1918. There actually shutdowns during that period because the virus was incredibly deadly. Deadlier, of course, than COVID-19. And yet, at that time, guess what? There were still people who were pushing against the mask mandates. There were people pushing against the lockdowns, wanted to reopen, pushing conspiracies, anti-science nonsense, vaccine skepticism. But yeah, probably the dumbest part of this, and what really shows how stupid this man is why he asked why we didn't shut down for anything else, COVID 1 through 18. Why 19? Why the 19th appearance of COVID when we've had COVID 18 other times? I mean, why didn't they shut down then, huh? Because this isn't the 19th COVID virus that has hit the United States. This was the reason they called it COVID-19 is that it was discovered in 2019. There hasn't been 18 years of COVID, okay, or 18 different strains of COVID that has hit the United States. All right. Not only that, but there has been also responses by the government to other pandemics or outbreaks of different diseases, coronaviruses even. The 2003 outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, because COVID-19 is SARS-CoV-19, SARS-CoV-2, 19. That was also caused by a coronavirus, SARS-CoV, and marked the first pandemic of the 21st century. According to the CDC, the disease did not spread widely in U.S. communities, and though the country did not go on a lockdown, the health agency did issue a number of emergency responses to stop a potential outbreak. Again, thankfully, that did not happen with the original SARS-CoV, but nonetheless, since it spread so quickly here in the United States, the current coronavirus, COVID-19, and its variants, like the UK variant, spread so quickly. That's why we had to actually take some sort of action. Okay? Now, globally, a total of 8,000 people, to compare it to what we're doing right now, 8,000 people worldwide became sick with SARS, 774 of whom died. Only 8 people in the U.S. were laboratory confirmed to have been infected by the virus. Compare that to, of course, the over 500,000 Americans that are dead, and the 31 million Americans that have been infected by the current coronavirus, COVID-19. Now, they also compare it to another virus, and that's the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS. That's also a coronavirus caused by MERS-CoV and was first reported in September of 2012. But only 2 people in the U.S. ever tested positive for that. So obviously, we're not going to have a lockdown over 2 people. But we are going to have lockdowns over millions of people getting infected and hundreds of thousands dying as a result. So the situations really are not comparable, okay? Because again, we haven't had a virus spread so fast and so easily in the modern era in the United States until now. Not to my knowledge, anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, Nugent, just like his pants, is full of nothing but crap. So I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna come back, see if I can do something about the audio levels here, and we'll stay right here. We'll be back around the nation.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Wet ass P-word.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right, is that a little bit better? I don't know. Hopefully. We'll see if music is still low. I'm aware. I had to switch back to my mixer because it's technical. Basically, I'm still working in the sound. Okay, that's pretty much it. All right. So let's read some super chats, shall we? Yes. From the Broke Biscotti Club, thank you very much for the super chat here. Gabby Mathis says to fund the police and meant to say BLM. So wait, to fund BLM? No, I think I know what you mean. Yes, the music is low. I'll figure it out, y'all. I'll get it. What did I change? I was messing around with my mixer to try to get a mix minus set up. All right. Turns out setting one of those things up in a not professional setting kind of hard. All right. Anyway, so I want to thank a couple more people as well. Over on Twitch here, I want to thank Granny Dragon for subscribing 6 months to Tier 1. And Crazy Hawaiian in PA subscribing for 5 months to Tier 1. So thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm trying to put a little color into my life, guys. Seriously. Yeah, of course, I'm supposed to be blue. I have blue lights. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Blue lights. So I don't look like I'm in a cell block. Come on, y'all. The program. Let me tell you. All right. Anyway, let's move on. We got 2 more stories, so we'll get to. They're all police brutality. Fun. A cardiologist testifying in former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's trial just lent a bit more of damning testimony against the defense. In fact, Dr. Jonathan Rich, retained by the prosecution as a heart expert or a cardiovascular expert, said that there was absolutely no evidence that drugs played a significant part in the death of George Floyd. In fact, here is some of that trial. Take a look.
Let's turn to methamphetamine then. What role do you feel that methamphetamine played in Mr. Floyd's cause of death?
I feel it played no substantive role at all.
And why is that?
All considering it was a very relatively low level of methamphetamine in his system. And so when you look at the context of the case and you see a relatively low level of methamphetamine in the context of everything else, I felt very confident that that low degree of methamphetamine was not what was triggering this profound cardiopulmonary arrest and ultimately PEA arrest.
All right, so that's pretty important. So this is in direct response to Chauvin's defense, who argued that Chauvin's actions did not cause the death of George Floyd. In fact, Chauvin's lawyer, Eric Nelson, claims that, no, it didn't have anything to do with the knee in the neck. No. This was all about, this is all George Floyd's fault. We're having heart disease, high blood pressure, and doing drugs. Is that it? It didn't have anything to do with the knee in the neck. Didn't have anything to do with the knee in the back. No, drugs, and that's it. See? Well, okay. But that's not right. In fact, Rich also testified that he saw no evidence that Floyd died due to a pre-existing heart condition or from an overdose of fentanyl or methamphetamine, 2 substances that were present in Floyd's system at the time of his death. In fact, the level of methamphetamine that was in his system was apparently incredibly low. So, interesting. Now, he also said this: I can state with a high degree of medical certainty that George Floyd did not die from a primary cardiac event, and he did not die from a drug overdose. Like several of the doctors who've testified during the trial, Rich said that he believed Floyd died as a result of asphyxia or a low level of oxygen. In fact, Rich testified that Floyd died from a cardiopulmonary arrest caused by low oxygen levels. Those low oxygen levels were induced by the prone restraint and positional asphyxiation that he was subjected to. That, of course, matches the testimony of the pulmonologist that recently testified that the positioning of George Floyd, the knee on his neck, the knee on his back, the pavement, all of that basically squished him to a point where breathing normally was almost impossible. It basically testified that it was like trying to breathe through a straw. Okay? So basically, when Floyd was saying, hey, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, well, it turns out he was telling the truth. He was struggling to breathe. And eventually, at a certain point, there wasn't enough oxygen going to his brain and to his heart, and it shut down. And that's it. He was telling the truth. It wasn't drugs, wasn't a heart condition. He had the life squeezed out of him by an officer that didn't give a damn about him. So much for protecting and serving. Okay. In fact, the next question here is when he talks about that. So take a look.
So, Dr. Rich, then, taking into account all of the evidence that you reviewed, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether Mr. Floyd's death was preventable?
Yes, I do.
Would you tell us what that opinion is?
Yes, I believe that Mr. George Floyd's death was absolutely preventable.
Preventable. Absolutely preventable. And also, during that, he outlined moments where Chauvin and other officers could have saved his life if they actually cared by repositioning him or initiating chest compressions or just getting off his goddamn neck. But that's not what happened. In fact, when Floyd was struggling to breathe, the officers considered that to be resisting arrest and continued to keep the knee on his neck, on his back, despite the fact that he was handcuffed and subdued. Had the officers or medical personnel given any sort of care, George Floyd would be alive right now. Full stop. And whatever you think about George Floyd, know that he was murdered by a police officer. End of story. Derek Chauvin played judge, jury, and executioner for nearly 9 long minutes. An eternity if you can't breathe. Anybody who's ever had a panic attack or any sort of close call knows that time feels like it starts to stand still. Okay? It feels like it slows down. And all you feel is sheer terror. George Floyd felt this for about 6 minutes until he passed out, until he died. Okay? All as a result of Derek Chauvin, who absolutely refused, to get off his damn neck. Despite the fact that, again, Floyd was restrained and he was being compliant. Again, only trying to move in order to be able to get air into his lungs because of the sheer terror and the agony that he was in as he was being slowly asphyxiated to death. A horrible, awful, unimaginably cruel death over a $20 bill. That's it. It's over. It's over. It's open and shut. Every single defense Chauvin has used has been systematically deconstructed by scientific evidence, by these experts that have come in to tell us about the human body and the effect of what Derek Chauvin and the other police officers had done to George Floyd as he was laying on the ground. The only reason to ignore it is that you had never given a damn about George Floyd's life. And people like that do exist, by the way. People out there will make up things to excuse this horrible death because of, I don't know, whatever reasons. Money, pandering to a crowd, clicks, all that stuff, or racism. All they see is a black face with a troubled past, and they think, well, obviously, I don't care the details. He just had it coming. I hope the jury can look at the evidence that has been presented and come up to what I believe is the right conclusion. That Derek Chauvin did murder this man and deserves to have to pay for that, for taking his life. One more here. here we go again. Minneapolis is now being rocked again by fresh protests over the shooting death of another black man. Now, this is Dante Wright. It's a 20-year-old black man who was shot and killed by police during a traffic stop. So now police said that they had pulled Wright over for a traffic violation, maybe an expired registration or something like that on his plate. He was found to have an existing warrant, and then police tried to arrest him. They tried to, of course, do that over that warrant. Wright decided to do something that I would not advise. He went back into his car. So what happened is he, pushed the officer, went back into his car. The response from one of the officers who was trying to arrest him was to then shoot him. Now, so what happened after the gunshot is that Wright had driven away and then ended up crashing, having a car accident several blocks later. So now Katie Wright is Dante's mother. And she said that she was on the phone with her son during the traffic stop. He said that he was pulled over for having air fresheners dangling in the rearview mirror. That's illegal in Minnesota. That was enough, of course, in their estimation, to go and pull over a black man. I'm not entirely sure on the details. She said her family bought Dante the car about 2 weeks ago. I heard scuffling, and I heard police say, "Dante, don't run," according to reports from the AP. The call ended when she dialed the number again. His girlfriend answered and said that he was dead in the driver's seat. And of course, they had gotten into an accident. She had no injuries. Now, it's also noted that it's unclear what warrant might have existed. But I can tell you, under most circumstances, even if you have a warrant, that doesn't mean cops can shoot you while you're driving away. That's generally not how it works. Why? Well, because you could hit a passenger, you could cause an accident, a car crash, you could hurt innocent bystanders, and that's almost what happened. So this situation, this is bad. It looks real bad because right now there's a trial, the Derek Chauvin trial, also happening in Minneapolis, the same place, essentially. And so as a result, Minneapolis is, I wouldn't say on fire. That's a bit hyperbolic, but there are protests. In the hours after the shooting on Sunday afternoon, protests, violence, and looting did break out in the Brooklyn Center, a suburb of about 30,000 people north of Minneapolis. So now the police decided to respond to this earlier today, and basically they're calling it an accident. According to the police, the officer who killed Wright said that they did so accidentally, and then released body camera footage that appeared to depict the officer shouting "taser" before firing her gun. Chief Tim Gannon of the Brooklyn Center Police Department said of the shooting, quote, "It is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet." And of course, this appears to me, from what I viewed in the officer's reaction to the distress, that this was an accidental discharge that resulted in the tragic death of Mr. Wright. The officer, who was not publicly identified, has been placed on administrative leave, officials said. After the officer fired, she is heard on the video saying, "Holy shit, I just shot him." So to me, of course, that sounds like she didn't know. She literally thought she was tasing him and was like, "Oh no, I just shot him." Okay. I mean, here's the thing about that. Do we not train officers to know the difference between their service weapon and taser? It's kind of easy to tell the difference between those two things, right? They're not exactly the same. And of course, if you watch the video, yes, it happened incredibly fast, but she did have time to aim her weapon in the several seconds. And so, look, again, to be fair, in the heat of the moment, I suppose you can make a mistake and accidentally pull your gun or your taser. It happened really fast. The man wanted to escape. He pushed the officers. He got into the driver's seat, and she shot him as he drove away. Now, the response, of course, from some people would that be that, well, he shouldn't have ran. Well, I mean, yeah. It's easy for me to say that, of course. But if you look in the context of what happened with George Floyd, if you look in that context, you can understand why this kid wanted to take his chances and run. You really can. If you think cops are going to kill you regardless of what happens, if you cooperate or not, in which George Floyd was cooperating, and that area, Minneapolis, does have a history of police brutality. Well, I mean, do you really blame him for wanting to run? I really don't. I really don't. And so it's a good example of how police brutality really like hurts the old policing. It really does. And how much fear there is in the black community of police. So now the result of this mistake ended up in being a car accident, of course. The police said a woman in the car had been hurt in the crash. Minor injuries, not life-threatening. That was his girlfriend. Thankfully, nobody in the other car had been injured. However, this man is dead, and that's an incredible tragedy. Again, should he have run? No. But the fact that he did doesn't mean the police should have been able to do what they did and shoot him. So running from police is not a capital offense. But again, I don't necessarily know if she meant that. Judging from the video, and you can watch it, on your own, it is deeply disturbing. And if you watch it, I mean, it seems like it actually honestly might have been a mistake. Still, that doesn't necessarily mean that that this officer will not face consequences. Again, this defense has been used before, and it did not turn out well for the police officer. And look, to me, I think it's a very clear case of, manslaughter. Like, you didn't mean to do it, but what happened is what happened. You made a mistake, you used your service weapon, and somebody died as a result. And if that's the case, I mean, hey, there's going to need to be accountability. She should not be a police officer. And there should be accountability for the death of this young man. All right. So, do we have another school shooting? America's back, baby. America's back. Cops are trained, gun on dominant side, taser on the other. Why did that cop have their gun out yelling, taser, taser? Interesting. Qualified immunity must go. True. I do agree with that. Again, I'm trying to be as super fair. Because I don't know all the facts of the situation. And again, I want to be fair, and I want to be as impartial to the facts as I can. So, isn't a taser yellow? It depends, I think. It really depends. Yeah. All right. So anyway, that's all I've got for y'all today. New excuse. He tripped, accidentally hit his head. Cops used to tell me what excuses they used. Yeah, I mean, the video kind of speaks for itself, though. And I would show it, but it's kind of demonetized. It's going to demonetize me if I show it. And that sucks. But it is out there. You should be able to watch it. And, see for yourself. All right. Anyway. Thank you all for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. I'm going to continue to work on, getting my sound issues all fixed and all that wonderful stuff. Yeah. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all later.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.